921. We'll also give out your other addresses here before you leave us. But you heard me just lay the table there. Tell us where you want to start first.
Oh, my God, Alex. Number one, let me get it right out in the open, folks. I'm no clairvoyant. I'm no prophet. None of that. Alex, going first where you were talking about Hillary's health issue. Remember what I've said. Alex, I hadn't been with those people in, 20, 30 years. I'm not in on the meetings. What I do know is what they're trained to do. So if she sees an opening with this medical issue, she's going to use it. Now, is she really sick? I'm like you, Alex. Is she really sick? It's kind of looking like the lady's got or the animal, I'm not going to say lady's got a problem. She will milk it for everything she can. But you said something else, Alex, that's incredibly important. You said that as y'all have gone around in the black communities, et cetera, throughout the country, you haven't found anybody that's all for Hillary. Let me tell you something. For years and years, you know this has happened in Arkansas for years. You could go around the state and after an election, nobody voted for Bill Clinton. However, he won. How do you do that? Well, that's what we're going to...
the next vice president.
Keep going. We're playing some of Hillary in the background. Go ahead.
Well, the biggest thing that we have to face today is organized mass multiple voting. And that's why, Alex, all over the country, you're seeing this voter ID. States have passed voter ID laws.
And now they've got the Justice Department in there saying they're going to sue. In fact, thank God you just reminded me. That's why I wanted to get you on last week. And you were only able to come on this week, Larry. Obama says a month ago there's no such thing as election fraud. Now he announces massive fraud by the Republicans, quote, run by Putin, incredible conspiracy theory. So they're going to federalize everything and hook federal computers up to all the machines to save us. How insanely obvious is this, Larry?
Oh, my. Well, here again, guys. This is the big one. I hope people understand, Alex, we're playing a game today, and I hate to call it a game, but we're in a fight for our lives as a nation. We're in a fight for it. It's amazing to me that you've got states that go through their constitutional requirements. They put something on the ballot, the state legislature ratifies it, the governor signs it, and then they have a law. And then the first thing that happens with this law, rightfully and duly passed by the state, a federal judge says, no, you can't do it. Unbelievable. And it happens every day. In North Carolina, as an example, we're trying to work to get people to help that governor. In North Carolina, you've got to have a picture ID to get alcohol. You got to have a picture ID.
Sure,
to get
absolutely.
cigarettes.
So they want to have dead people vote, other people vote. They have a list of old voter rolls of people still in the voter rolls, but who haven't voted in a while. There's going to be massive fraud.
Now, do you know why that's so important? When I was with Bill Clinton, now, folks, this is a long time ago, but it's going to happen today. We used to go to Ward School Bus here in Conway, and we used to get school buses. During the summer, we'd get school buses, and we would load them up. We would go to Northeast Arkansas. We'd pick up in that impoverished area of the state. We would pick up blacks. We would take them to the precincts in Little Rock, kind of what you'd call the ghetto precincts. We would get them a T-shirt. They'd go in with this card, and it would say, hello, I'm Larry Nichols. And then it showed them exactly who to vote for. They go in, they vote, they come back out. Alex, we changed their T-shirt. Now they got a blue T-shirt on. They go back in, except this time, instead of Larry Nichols, he's Alex Jones. He knows how to vote. He fills it out. He comes back home, gets on the bus, changes T-shirts, goes back in, votes again.
And that's why we've got to be looking for the buses, and we've got to dress up like bums as well and stumble onto them and blow their operations.
Now, there you go. Now, the problem is, folks, all these people say, well, I'll be a poll watcher. Well, let me tell you where the problem is, guys. Let me tell you where the massive voter fraud's going to be. It's going to be in Cleveland. It's going to be in Detroit. It's going to be in New York. It's going to be wherever there are, what do you call them, ghetto communities, large numbers. That's where you got to go.
All right, stay right there, Larry Nichols. Larry, we got to go to break. We're going to come back and talk about this. But if you just joined us, I tell family this and they don't believe it. It's been announced that Homeland Security is taking over the elections to, quote, stop Vladimir Putin. But at least we have Hillary in her own press conference saying it. I'm going to cue that up on her airplane, or her fake press conference, and admitting it. I'm Alex Jones with infowars.com.
You're listening to The Alex Jones Show.
InfoWars is changing the world for the better. And that means you're changing the world for the better. When listeners call in and thank me for what I've done, I tell them, are you kidding? You're the reason we're on the map, spreading the word about the broadcast, telling your friends and family about the show, praying for us, buying the books, the videos.
I know all the angles, so I can tell all kinds of stuff in detail that nobody could possibly know. So it proves my point about you when I've got all of these exacting details, number one. But the scariest thing of all, they're using this as a way to do what? Bring in somebody to oversee it. And who controls the people that are going to be overseeing it? They do. They do. So it's an absolute, unbelievable play to get absolute control of computerized voting.
What do you make of the fact that they're using the EU/UN security service of the OECD, and they've added 10 times, quote, the observers they had in 2012? There it is on screen from Reuters. OSCE Rights Group requests 500 international observers to monitor U.S. presidential vote.
Can you believe it? What I'm going to tell you next, Alex, goes right in with this. All of a sudden, we're bringing in UN.
That's what you wanted to talk about this morning. So give people a preview before we go to break. You said, I want to talk about the UN taking over the internet October 1st.
Well, the UN's taking over the internet October 1st, but there is another thing that happens that most people have no idea. In the same agreement, the UN takes over our health care in a play that nobody is going to believe, but it's there.
Part of the TPP.
You got it.
I know. It's all. This is it. This is the year of world government. Do you agree, Larry? This is the year that it all really begins.
It's over, Alex, if we don't stop it. It's over. I've told y'all that. I've said it, and of course I look like an idiot.
Stay there. I'm going to give you the floor for 10 minutes when we come back. Then I'm going to let you go. I appreciate your time, especially with your health. Everybody needs to pray for Larry Nichols. That this is it. 2016 is it. The military knows. Trump knows. The globalists are all over their major publications saying this is their year, this is their takedown, this is their big offensive. If they lose, they're on the defense just like Hitler. This is their battle of the bulge.
We're on the march. The empire.
Lapdogs going further than other censoring. All Hades, it seems, is breaking loose. And it was already accelerating, but it seemed like we passed a demarcation line September 1st, and everything we already saw that was amplified 100% in the last year went up 200% more. I mean, it was like just a massive next level. And now it's clear the acceleration is clearly happening. What are we witnessing, Larry Nichols?
You're witnessing what I told you about, Alex, a few months ago. Remember when I was telling you and your listeners, we're at the beginning of the end of the silent coup, the velvet coup. You're seeing it now. You're seeing it manifest itself. Now, I want to say something. I want to interrupt everything for just a second, folks. I'm telling you this as straightforward and honest as I can. I appreciate Alex and all of y'all trying to help me. But if it comes down to the money you have to make a choice between getting some of the incredible products that Alex has got to sustain you or me. You've got to support this program. Folks, this program is all we're going to have here soon. People need to come here because I will help you. You know, I've rigged more elections, Alex, than most people have voted in. I've done it. I've rigged them. I admit it. Not proud of it, but I did it. It's because I did that I know how to twiddle with them and save them. We're going to have a program right here, Alex, if people will come showing how to do poll watching to the point where we can stop this massive single greatest effort they have to rig this election, which is the multiple voting. We can stop, Alex. We can stop it with your audience right here. If people will come here and let's teach them and show them how to do it, number one. Number two, In that TPP, there's another little thing. There are 29 facts about TPP. 5 of them have to do with the trade, which is what we think it's supposed to be about, right? Only 5 have to do with trade. 24 others have to do with stuff that ain't got nothing to do with trade. Number 1 would be like the computer stuff, October the 1st. But here's the scary one. I have told y'all that Obama announced himself. They said it. I didn't. The Obama people said a couple, 3 months ago that on November the 15th or the 17th, I can't remember why, I can't tell you which one date it was, but on that day, full Obamacare kicks in. And when full Obamacare kicks in, your health care insurance premium, they said, will go up somewhere between 200 to 2,000%. 200 to 2,000%. Well, I found out last week. Alex knows who I found out, but I can't tell y'all because of the risk. But included in TPP, it includes a provision having to do with the American health care program. But what they're talking about is Obamacare global health care system. The establishment of a global health care plan. And what that means, Alex, is we in America are going to be picking up the tab. Now remember, under Obamacare, the problem is by the time we pick up the tab for all the people that choose not to have health care or can't afford it, it's bankrupting us. When now we're going to find out the 15th of November that we're fixing to pick up under the terms of this UN agreement. We're fixing to pick up the health care costs for Zimbabwe, Kenya, you name nowhere country in the world, we're picking it all up. It will literally drive us into bankruptcy. Us. Now, we got to stop that, Alex.
Absolutely. Look at Venezuela. Look at what's happening all over the world. Look at Greece. Look at Spain. Look at Portugal. Look at Italy. They are installing leaders in major European countries, and it's on the news that, quote, Goldman Sachs runs our country now, and every time you turn around, it's Goldman Sachs, whether it's gun control, open borders, globalism, it is this one bank, along with J.P. Morgan Chase, that run the whole stinking show. And do you think they're being truthful when they say in the Financial Times and the Economist and the Washington Post, obviously communicating with their own crew members, that the New World Order is in deep trouble if Hillary doesn't win? I mean, are they all in for her? Because if they'll censor, if they'll engage in all these threats, if they'll let her commit all these crimes, clearly she is the embodiment of their hopes and dreams.
I believe without any shadow of a doubt, now this is my belief, I cannot prove this in a court of law, but this is my feeling. They have fought so very hard against Donald Trump because Donald Trump, they fear, is about America. And whoever becomes president of the United States to comply with this global, one world, global governance system, you cannot have a person at the presidency of this country that believes in America first. You can't. You can't do it. It don't work. They have got to stop Trump. And if they stop Trump, they stop us. That's Hillary's strength, and she knows it. Hillary's sitting back, Alex. She's on a dream ride of her life. She's sitting here with all these global interests that are sitting there worrying. All she's got to do is just sit back and let them do all the work. Let me give you another quick example. Remember, what is the greatest single fraud committed against the American people when it comes to this election? And that's going to be the multiple voting. Several states have introduced voter ID laws. Now, figure this one out, Alex. We found out a couple of weeks ago or a month ago, whenever it was, that George Soros had committed, along with the DNC, they had committed to this law firm, a guy named Eliason or Ellison, however you pronounce his name.
Sure. I mean, let me quantify it. It's in all the emails that they said we're going to bring in foreigners and get illegals to vote, and this is how we're going to break the U.S. up. It's the same strategy in Europe. We have his emails there as well.
And they put in $3.5 million for him to go around
suing
and to fight, get this, to fight.
Yeah. Globalism is a very simple equation. It's a very simple equation. Foreign multinational banks come in, they open your borders, they bring in client minority groups that then vote in key areas and demographics in battleground states to overthrow the country. It's not that we're even against these poor illegals, it's that they are a weapon system. Just like if you drowned, your dog in a pool of water, the water isn't, evil itself, but it's being used as a weapon. You're absolutely right. Larry, you helped them form the Broken Coalition strategy.
You bet.
And we are now witnessing it point blank range, my friend.
Well, you got to see this one little trick because it's deadly. They're going out with this alliance group and they're funding two things. They gave him two orders. Fight, number one, voter ID laws. Why? Because that allows for multiple voting. But the other thing that they're giving him money for is to fight what, Alex? They're giving him money to fight states' rights initiatives. States' rights. Why? Well, think about it. They've got us in the court. Any state, I've told everybody I can to tell their governor, you go in federal court, you've lost. You're in with the black
The states just have to ignore it. Now the courts at the federal level are gone. We have to go with the states, and we have to reconstitute the republic and a new constitutional convention with the states. And I was never for a con because they could use it to overthrow us. They already have. We are in an emergency brain surgery, heart surgery right now. We have got to save this country. And here's the good news, and I want to add this here, Larry. They came to totally overrun the UK with globalist tyranny. The people voted to leave it. Doesn't mean the fight's over, but they're going in the right direction. Donald Trump has risen up in opposition. As the Bible says, when the enemy comes in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord will lift up a standard against it. So the good news is that you can see nationalism and the understanding of the New World Order growing and expanding, Larry, and that really scares the New World Order and is making them accelerate their plan that was already in trouble. And I believe they've miscalculated and are starting to bleed out. And I think medium term, we're going to win because they may try to bring in an absolute authoritarianism and really try to censor and shut us down. And at that moment, the military and others are ready to stand up.
Alex, it's all kind of down to this. And I think this is why I say your program, your network is so important. We've got to have some place to gather. You're right. We can stop this. We can stop it. We can stop it because they're so afraid of us. If they didn't think we could stop it, Alex, they wouldn't give two hoots and a tinkers.
They're engaged in huge crimes. It's outrageous. All we've got to do is expose it.
Expose it, engage the enemy. And Alex, that's what I promise all of you, as long as I can, and I don't know how long that is, but every breath I breathe, I will help get through this election. We can win this election by using poll watchers that know what they're looking for and in the right place.
All right, Larry, let me stop you right there.
We can go and put pressure on
Absolutely.
government.
Larry, we're out of time. We're working with Roger Stone on that. He's on tomorrow. We're working with others on it. We're going to war game with Dr. Pieczenik again coming up for 30 minutes in the next hour, and then I'm going to cover other news after he leaves us. But you're absolutely right. History's happening. Thank you so much for your time and your energy. And again, the good news is here, I got contacted by a lot of different police over the weekend, some of them senior, and they said, Alex, it's one thing to read it at InfoWars or Breitbart, but we actually now have the Justice Department and the UN actually came in last week and told us they're taking control and get ready for a big emergency. And the police are all standing there actually hearing, get ready for the UN, get ready for political correctness, get ready. So the attempted coup physically is what's going to bring them down. They've had their soft coup, as you said, but I'm telling you, the reason they're scared is they know, Larry, that the police and military are finally really waking up. Not that they're perfect, but they really get, wow, foreign globalist scum are going to overthrow the whole country and gut it, and they understand it's going to destroy prosperity. Even people that aren't perfect don't want to destroy prosperity and have a creepy feeling right now, and the attitude is they're ready to stand up. A, what do you think of that? And B, in 1 minute, how will the globalists strike back against something like that?
Well, number one, I believe in it 100%. The police have had enough. And they've counted on the police just laying down and walking away from their jobs. Guess what? That's not happening, Alex. The police are not just having blue flu and walking away. The police are standing up. And I'm telling you, the globalists are in trouble. Now, they're not going to admit it. But Alex, if we will unify, if we will stand together, and I'm not talking about one of these things where you stand around singing Kumbaya. No, there's work to be done.
Don't comply with the globalists. Expose them at every front. Spread the word. Go out and poll watch. Look, it only takes one or two of us to get into one of their buses when they're fake voting, and that's why they're scared. They know we're aware of them now. We're watching them, and they're going to try to steal it, and they look scared because they know everybody's watching. That's why Trump told the police, you get out there and you watch what they're doing. They're coming to steal it with that dirtbag Soros. Larry Nichols, we salute you. God bless you, my friend. And one day, regardless, I'm going to see you in heaven. You're a great person, and we appreciate you. We'll talk to you again, Larry.
Thanks, buddy. See you all.
It's a pleasure, but I think the key word that you used was Marie Antoinette. And let me give you and the audience a very clear idea of what we're talking about. In a liberal newspaper, the New York Times, which often criticizes us, but sometimes offers very interesting information, they wrote about the fact that she is making over $156,000 per hour. Let me repeat it again, $156,000 per hour for the rich and the very rich and the very famous. She's sequestered away in Martha's Vineyards, in the Hamptons and Beverly Hills, will not talk to anybody, and make sure that if you take a picture with her and you're a child, that costs $2,000. If you bring your family along with you and you want a group picture with Hillary, that's $10,000. But literally, she makes $156,000 per hour taking pictures with her, not doing anything, not creating anything, not implementing a program, or even being able to articulate a policy. So what we have here is literally the beginning of the end of the Marie Antoinette school of government. She is finished. She understands that, and in fact has a woman who intercedes for her by the name, and it's the most ludicrous thing I've ever seen, but it epitomizes the absurdity of how Hillary is so alien from us. The lady who intervenes on behalf of Hillary Clinton is Lady Lynn Forster the Rothschild, a friend who makes sure that nobody asks Hillary any hard questions, does not get in a confrontation, and makes sure that everybody pays $100,000 per couple at a lamb dinner in a Martha's Vineyard estate. Now, Lady Lynn Forster the Rothschild, in essence, is a woman who was born in Bergen, New Jersey. It has no credentials whatsoever. She's a wannabe.
She's married to a
Christian.
Rothschild.
She's not even, she's not even a Rothschild, but the Rothschilds aren't even Rothschilds. So the point of fact is, what Alex is saying is the system is breaking down because a Rothschild is totally irrelevant to this country. A Rothschild was nothing more than a family of Shylocks who loaned out money in the 14th century in Frankfurt, Germany, and became some nobility. They didn't create anything. They didn't invest or create any new medicines or any great works of art. So what you have here is the ultimate corruption of the elite, including the Soroses, including the Bon Jovis, including the Hollywood elite. And what's happening is even the liberal paper like the New York Times has to show you that the contrast between what the people are talking about, the Hillary Clintons and all the liberals, and how they live wearing $10,000 outfits and receiving $156,000 per hour is so out of control that the devolution of power is coming imminently. I said the Secret Service can't stop it. The FBI can't stop it. Well, what they do is reinforce a Marie Antoinette, a Louis XVI, and a Venera. And on top of that, one of the things that came in, Alex, and what we were talking about, that when Hillary gets in, if she gets in because she's so incapacitated physically and mentally, Dr. Drew agreed with that, and many other internists agree with that, we have Mr. Tim Kaine. Now, I purposely left out one element of Tim Kaine when I said that he was, in fact, a CIA Jesuit operative with Negroponte. The New York Times came back on an article, didn't address me, but it was addressed to me and Alex, saying he was not a CIA operative, which was absurd. But instead, they explained how he was part of liberation theology. Now, to show you...
That's code word for Ford Foundation.
Well, it's even worse than that. The liberation theology, and they didn't realize that, neither did Tim Kaine, is about communism. It's about the Jesuits who practiced equal subsidies for all the peasants and everyone else, were considered anti-American, pro-communist, pro-socialist. And in fact, Pope Francis, who had had 2 of his Jesuits killed, 4 nuns assassinated, supported this gentleman, Tim Kaine. So what we have is not only the church falling apart, the Rothschilds falling apart, the Hillary Clintons falling apart, the entire establishment, the Secret Service not really able to do what they're supposed to, the FBI totally emasculated. And we had, therefore, the devolution of power.
And you have Hillary. Have you seen the photos of the press when she did this one press conference that wasn't a press conference, the first in over 170 days, with about a dozen women and 2 men looking at her like she is Jesus coming down from heaven at Mount Olives? I mean, when you look at the way and the videos of how they fawn after her, it is such a sick joke. I mean, what is going on here?
Well, what's going on is the fact, you know, Alex, we've seen this before with the Bush administration and Bill Clinton and the Obama administration. What happens is the minute they became presidents, they immediately isolate themselves off. And I've got to go back again to the Secret Service. The Secret Service has not served America. They have served a president of the United States and creates, by their definition of their jobs, this isolated notion of a precious individual who can't be assassinated. Now, I'm not advocating assassination. I'm just simply stating the fact that no person...
No, I get it. I mean, they're totally like Chinese princesses with their feet bound in an ivory tower in La La Land, disconnected.
But at the same time, they're working on our dollar. It's our tax dollars that pay...
So they're not servants, they become emperors. So let me ask you this question.
Yes, sir.
Looking at this, how far can it go? Because my historical gut, and by that I mean my gut, my common sense, but also history shows, when you get a type of rotten elite like this, they're delusional, other countries that are corrupt and out of control and have their own problems still wouldn't put up with stuff like this. There's an incredible disdain, disrespect, and then we look at how other countries are treating, not so much our military or our people, but treating Obama, making him get off the back of the plane, getting in their face this yesterday, not having a red carpet. What does that signify by the Chinese?
Well, it's a little bit worse than that, my friend. If anybody recalls, the president of the Philippines, Duterte, just called Obama the son of a whore.
He said his mother is a whore, which is actually true.
Well, irrespective of the reality...
Well, it just shows how informed he is. His mother was in pornography with the communist publisher. I mean, it's amazing, but go ahead.
No, but what the point is, I cannot imagine that the president of the Philippines would ever mention that or say anything to Putin, to president of China. So what has happened is we've created this isolated, weak individual, which will continue with Hillary, who cannot stand up for anything, cannot assert the position of America, and really does not represent the United States.
I agree. Let's go back, though. I mean, Philippines is a big ally of the U.S. They know that China's being allowed to walk around in there. Our military doesn't like it. I mean, why would he make that provocation?
Because he doesn't give a damn about Obama. But there's a more serious problem, and I'll tell you what it is. When I was Deputy Assistant Secretary of East Asia under the Baker administration, I had to deal with the Filipinos. And I noticed that when I came into their prime minister in their offices, they would sit there in a very arrogant way and kind of treat me in a very patronizing way, although I was technically over their country. But what I knew and they did not know is that I had their visa applications because every one of the leaders of the Philippines, including Marcos Aquino, had American citizenship or American visas. So when this individual started to shoot his mouth off about our presence in the Philippines, I cut him off immediately and I said, you know what, your visa's up. And I will explain something to you very quickly. You shut your mouth. You say what we're going to tell. You're going to nod your head when I tell you what we're going to do. We will give you $500 million. That was my instructions. And we're leaving your base in the Subic Bay. And we're going to Singapore. Do you understand that? And if you don't, I'm going to withdraw your visa. That was it. And handling him that way, he shut his mouth. He kept quiet.
Sure, so it's just classic male bravado, and Trump understands that. You look at somebody like Obama who bows and kisses everybody's ass. Doesn't he get that's the exact wrong message?
No, because once again, Alex, one of the things we haven't talked about is when you're a weak individual, what do you pick as your coterie of advisors? There's all sycophants. Hillary has one of the worst group of advisors I've ever seen. The continuity of the Sandy Bergers, the Susan Rices, they come out of think tanks. They're totally inept in what they do.
So they're little office weasels that just sit around.
More than a speechwriter.
So they just sit around all day at lunch telling each other how smart they are.
Well, it's not only that. It's a problem for us because we have to be able, the American public has to be able to vet out all of these people, including for Trump. I have to tell you exactly what I said last time about Manafort. Christie has to leave the Trump campaign.
No, you said months before Manafort's problem is going to be Russian. You were right. Now you're saying get rid of Chris Christie. I don't need to be a rocket scientist to know that. I mean, Chris Christie obviously is going to deal 360. He's going to work with. I mean, you're literally infiltrating yourself, bringing that giant chipmunk into your operation.
What I'm saying also is, and I'm warning the Trump and the Hillary campaign on your show, that they should not be getting advice from neocons like Steve Hadley and Zalmay Khalilzad, because the people on this show and the millions of Americans who fought against the Bush and Clinton administration are watching again, seeing Steve Hadley, Wolfowitz, Zalmay Khalilzad, all the neocons who created 9/11 and created the war in Iraq being questioned and being offered positions in the government. If that occurs, I will say it categorically. The Secret Service, the FBI, and many other institutions will have very serious problems if the Bush people come back in any shape or form, either under Hillary or under Trump.
Sure, so under the soft coup being orchestrated by patriots in the country, just their information war, the Bush and the Clintons are out. We're going to have fair policies for the U.S. We're not breaking the United States for globalism as some sacrificial lamb to impress the Chinese or anybody else. So let's talk about how we make sure that happens.
Well, one of the ways it happens is we at the local level, for example, in Florida, we support a man called Ted Yoho, a veterinarian, came out of what's called the Tea Party here. But it's
now, this is a microcosm example. Explain how we accelerate the patriot liberty takeover of the states.
The way we do that is to make sure we pinpoint our local candidates who support, one, our national security at the national level and at the local level. Secondly, we want to make sure that these individuals are not beholden to big business in any way. Thirdly, we want to make sure that they have values that are consistent with this country as a Judeo-Christian entity. And fifthly, they're people who will respond to you when you write to them or tweet to them. I give you an example of Ted Yoho, who's a local veterinarian, decided to run for Congress, had never been in politics, came and met with us, a whole group of liberals, right.
And you're saying so you can organize them, you can inform them, and you can use them to organize even more by getting involved in promising campaigns. Twitter @StevePieczenik.com. We should point out that Dr. Pieczenik is working around the clock to try to save this country. If you are running for local office and you're on the Tea Party Patriot system trying to restore the republic and make this country free again and great again, Dr. Pieczenik is just now launching this, even though he's retired, because this is the final big battle for the republic, folks. And you can find him at Twitter at stevepieczenik.com or Twitter at Steve Pieczenik or stevepieczenik.com. Go ahead.
Thank you, Alex.
Please continue talking about what de-evolution is, because you predicted it here like 5 years ago, and it's happening.
Well, it's happening very quickly because our tax dollars can no longer afford the price of Obama going from the golf courses of Martha's Vineyard and right into China, where he really doesn't need to go to an ASEAN meeting. I've been in an ASEAN meeting. They're a waste of time, and it cost us $186,000 per hour for one of his planes, and you double that because he's got 2 to 3 planes going. Number two, you get involved at the state and local levels and commissioners. I mean, literally, and you go for the candidate. If the candidate doesn't have a party, or it's a Libertarian Party, or even a Democratic Party, you make sure that candidate responds to you, and you work for that candidate at the local level and organize your friends and neighbors to make sure that we have people who can respond.
That's right. You just don't vote. You infiltrate the political process.
Correct. This is a whole new revolution, Alex, and you're absolutely right. You've articulated in a way we've never had it before. Because of Twitter, because of the internet, we're able to now sustain a dialogue with our local representatives, back them up, work with them for free if it's voluntary. If you have a few dollars, you give it to them. The national level now is not as relevant. And the reason for that is that we're devolving power to the state level. The governor's becoming more powerful. The county commissioner's becoming even more powerful. Your judges, your tax collectors.
Because they're learning the feds don't have any power because they're not even federal anymore. They're globalist. And so just start disregarding. If we all start not responding, it'll be a bloodless revolution. Game over.
You got it. Alex just hit it on the head. What relevance does the FBI really have to the local community? None. Zippo. Zero. They can't even indict someone on the federal level other than somebody on pornography, not on drugs, nothing on the Secret Service, nothing Department of Justice, nothing Department of Education. In other words, we just ignore them, whether it's financially with the IRS, and we start playing and lower our tax bases with them, and dedicate yourself to that because they need our money.
We'll talk more about that, but let me throw this at you before we go to break and come back and do one more segment. What about the fact that I've talked to the average FBI agent, and they're just dealing with bank robberies and kidnappings and are good people and more awake than the general public? When we say these agencies are bad, though, the individual men and women on average, I wouldn't say they've got bad leaders and bad management. What happens to them? I mean, what are they supposed to do?
Let me tell you what happens. I think you hit on something that's very important. When 9/11 occurred, a couple of the CIA operatives and others came up to me to literally apologize and excuse themselves. And the one question I had is, was your pension that important that you could allow people to be killed, and American people to be killed? And they looked at me with shame. And the problem is, Alex, and this is what we have to reconstitute the federal government. No more pensions for 20 years. No one. Neither the military.
Let's talk about that. We talked about that Friday, but I mean, here's my deal. I'm not lionizing the FBI. I've been a big critic. It was the FBI that mainly exposed 9/11 actually when it happened. You know, they were the ones
Not really. A lot of them were involved.
Well, no, I know they were, but I'm talking about also people talking about the flight schools and stuff. Well, I know you were there day one exposing it. You were with other groups, but we're going to talk about that when we come back with Dr. Steve Pieczenik. This is important information. Of hopping up and down with glee when the press is censored or medical professionals are censored really should concern everyone about where this country's going.
I think you're absolutely right, Alex. One of the things why you, and again, I know you don't like my praising what we're doing and what you're doing, is one of the things that happened, and you have to remember, not only are they attacking you, but when she says Alex Jones has this conspiracy theory that I'm dying, she's clearly attacking me and others.
No, exactly. No, when she says Alex Jones, they mean the pantheon of guests.
Well, what they mean is a pantheon, but in particular, they were hitting something I said because it's very hard for someone like myself, forget who I am, Steve Pieczenik is, but when you're a board examiner, board-certified psychiatrist, you are a medical doctor from Cornell, Harvard, and MIT, it is very hard for the New York Times and CNN to come and attack you. And
in fact, that's why no one attacked you. They've been attacking us for this story, every other
they've
guest.
attacked you, but here's the
No, I'm saying they wouldn't attack you, and that was key because it was powerful.
Well, that's exactly it. But what's happening, Alex, is that we're working so well together that, in effect, I expected that Jeff Zucker, the head of CNN, not a very bright guy, not a smart guy, a guy who's just interested in money, and I expected him to shut down Dr. Drew, who's a board-certified internist, and he did it. So what we're really watching, Alex, and this is happening across the board, is we're seeing the rise of fascism of the left. And that's what you're beginning to see as we're pulling back and we're becoming more successful in exposing the neocons, in exposing the Marie Antoinettes, in exposing the incompetence of the CIA, the incompetence of the Secret Service, of the FBI, the Department of Justice. What happens is the only recourse they have is for their mechanisms and their outlets to shut down shows that were very important in reaffirming a very objective concept. She is sick. There is no question about it. The problem I said, and that Dr. Drew said, and many other board examiners said, release the records from Columbia PNS. If you've been hospitalized for months on end, you have MRIs and CAT scans that indicate she has brain damage, she has physical and mental problems.
And the drumbeat's gotten stronger. And I agree uncannily. What you said on air seemed to be a roadmap for all these other doctors to have courage. Clearly, they were attacking you when they attacked me. So what does that signify? And now looking at her, again, I'm not a doctor like you, but it looks, I mean, she looks like she's deteriorating quickly.
Well, the point of fact is that the American public now, the veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan, have to stand up as a group and say, we cannot accept her as a candidate for the presidency of the United States. We cannot accept Zalmay Khalilzad or a Steve Hadley or another neocon to represent us, or anybody in the Bush-Clinton entourage to come forth to be our leaders. And that's where we have been very successful, and the American public has to now protest it in such a way that they can have a very peaceful revolution. They can have very peaceful protests.
But here comes the next problem. They may try, exactly, Dr. Pieczenik. So how do you see them striking back? A false flag, an attempted assassination?
I see demonstrations. I see women who have incredible signs about Hillary and her incompetence and the despicable behavior of her husband. I see Trump coming back and hitting them again and again and again. I see Bernie Sanders coming out and saying again what he should have said all along, which he has said. This is a corrupt...
I was about to say, what does it signify that he rolled over for months and is suddenly coming out against her?
Well, you know, that's a good point, Alex. I have a lot of respect for Bernie. I don't know him. I heard him in New Hampshire. But, you know, he is a old-line Jewish socialist from Brooklyn. But he represented a very important part of those young people who I expect them to demonstrate in the streets, because he realized he made a concession which was very poorly executed. And, in fact, he was co-opted by Hillary. Whatever concession he made to her, she defaulted on it. And I think Bernie should come back in and reassert the concepts that he said and reaffirm the fact that he has to have his millennials protest against a person like Hillary, a Marie Antoinette, come back into the
I agree. If Sanders came out and said...
can never come back. Bernie is an important part of this.
If Sanders came out and said Hillary stole the election, stole the nomination, it'd be it for Hillary.
He said the business was rigged. Trump said the business was rigged. Trump exactly understood what you and I did, that Bernie is the exact opposite and the mirror image of him, and they want the same things. One can build the condo, the other one has to pay.
Dr. Pieczenik, I know you want to stay on the offensive, and that's always great and good, and you're talking to a general audience, but specifically, though, let's talk about how we expect the neocons, the globalists, the George Soroses to strike back. I'm really worried about an assassination attempt on Hillary, whether it's successful or not, making her a victim. If I was them, I'd be looking at that. Obviously, we don't want any harm against her. I'd be looking at some type of economic deal or maybe a new little war. I mean, if you were working for the other team, what should you...
One of the things that I'm getting that seems to be out of control is the Zika virus nonsense. I mean, you know, for a virus to come out of Brazil and then contaminate Miami Beach and affect, I understand it affects women who have children, but beyond that, no one's going to get Guillain-Barré syndrome. I mean, we have a lot of, you know, issues that are at hand. Zika virus is not one of them. The economy is the second, probably the most.
That's
important.
my next question. What do you make of Saudi Arabia?
Is that our people have to request that our soldiers come back from Africa, from Iraq and Syria. We never had a state of war declared. The president has no right to send the National Guard of Florida into Djibouti and Africa. I don't need to lose young Christian men and women into a war that has no national security.
I've got another question. We got to move quick. What do you make of the claim that Obama is negotiating around the clock with Putin to join him against ISIS? Isn't that just a way to cover up the fact that Hillary and him...
Obama's finished. Basically what's happening is our forces there, whether they be mercenaries or whatever, work with the Russians. We've worked very closely with the Russians. ISIS is being degraded, but not because of Obama, but because they have
No, and he knows his little move was defeated, and so now he wants to act like, as a legacy, he jumped in to stop it.
Yeah, but he has no legacy. There's absolutely no legacy for Obama. It's gone. It's just a black man who came in for 8 years and disappeared. He's the invisible black man. That's all he was. And there's no legacy. ISIS is gone.
Absolutely. And again, clearly, ISIS was a proxy army of some of the Gulf states, elements of NATO and others.
Army of the CIA. What we need in next administration is defunding of the CIA and a Michael Flynn to take over to make sure that we don't have civilians who go out of control for the past 4 years.
Well, sure isn't the answer, because all the contacts the CIA has, just take it over?
Well, the CIA what happened is, I'll be very frank, John Brennan, who was a disaster as the DDO in Saudi Arabia, came out and instead of taking human, that is, collecting intelligence and understanding the cultural and psychological dimensions, decided to co-opt what we call SOCOM, Special Operations Out of Command, and use them for drone warfare. In other words, we don't have any more intelligence.
Which makes everybody hate you. See, what they don't get about HUMAT is, it's not just you can have electronic intelligence. They think HUMAT is just gathering intelligence. HUMAT is winning hearts and minds. You remove that and run around bombing people, but that's the way you turn people against the country.
That's exactly it. I mean, the essence of any war, the essence of any success is understanding the enemy or the people and their culture. We have not done very well. And that's been a serious problem. But
it seems like sabotage. They've got to know doing that would sabotage the U.S. I smell something bigger here. And I know you always say it's ineptitude, and I agree there's a lot of that. But at a certain point, they're undermining the U.S. They're destroying our institutions. They're destroying our power. It's clear this is sabotage.
Well, let me put it this way. I know you think it's sabotage. I call it so gross incompetence that 16 different units can't even integrate themselves. And we're spending tons of millions and trillions of dollars trying to figure out what's going on, yet we have no unified.
So it's mainly looting.
Even with James Clapper, that's not enough.
Sure.
What we need is to clear out this entire system, to have a sweeper. And that's the kind of guy that Mike Flynn would come in. He knows exactly what the problem is.
Yeah, what'd you make of Trump saying, I don't want to meet with the CIA, they'll just lie to me? And then Harry Reid goes, oh, yeah, well, we lie to the American people. We'll just give him fake briefings. And Trump goes, exactly, dumbass. I've got the Army advising me. I don't need...
Harry Reid worked in a house of prostitution before he became a Mormon.
Well, he's obviously a monster. Let me ask you this question, though. I mean, clearly, look how the things Trump says, the things he does are so smart. He's like, I don't want briefings from the CIA. I don't want a bunch of bull.
He knows what the problem is, but he's got to clear out Christie. He's got to clear out Ben Carson. He's got to clear out all the neocons. And he has to understand that the government that that we have has to be cleaned out. I mean, one of the most important things in the first 100 days is to literally shut down institutions and fire right and left. That's
Sure.
what I do.
Why is the establishment so scared of Trump? I mean, for me, that's the biggest endorsement for him.
Because that's exactly what they can do, because they don't have a hold. One of the key elements, Alex, and I think your audience has to understand this, one of the key elements in intelligence or politics is the ability to manipulate and create vulnerability. You want vulnerability in your enemy and your allies so you can manipulate them. The Clintons have a whole list of issues on everybody involved with them. They know exactly how to expose them. With a guy like Obama, who had a homosexual history in Chicago, they know all about him. They know all about his mother. They know all about the fact he's CIA, came out of Occidental and came up. Hillary Clinton, a history of lesbian activities, a history of, corruption. These are the things that we know, but the system clearly wants to deny it. So what they have is manipulation and a co-optation of manipulation. That's all it is. It's part of pandering. It's part of ascendancy to power, and that's what you have to have of people who have no relationship to them, who are not beholden to them. And that's why I came in and out of administrations. I never stayed in one administration. I never accepted a pension. I never accepted a promotion in the military. So there was nothing they could do for me. If they wanted me, it's because what I could bring to them. But the reality is I didn't need them. They needed me more. And now the issue is, what can we do in America to make sure we're no longer vulnerable to this kind of nonsense?
Absolutely, because these people are out of control, and you can smell their end is coming. The problem is,
but Alex, part of what you're doing, and a great part of what you're doing, is the spearhead of cutting through again, and we need to keep going, because the election will be rigged. There's no question about it. It is totally rigged, contrary to what.
Hold on, I got to skip this break. This is too important, even though it won't even be a network of these people take over, so it doesn't matter. We're all in now. Clearly, they're bringing in multinationals. They went from saying there's no such thing as election fraud to now we're going to save it with Homeland Security running it. That's what Roger Stone had said a month before they did that. He said, Alex, watch. They're going to, quote, keep it from being a fraud. They're going to protect the election. That's who does it. And now they're going to have Justice Department computer teams hooked in, lovingly monitoring everyone, giant foxes guarding the hen house from the imaginary Russians who can't even hardly keep their electricity on right now with the GDP of Italy. And so now you're stating, yes, you think it's going to be rigged. With them now responding, they've got to protect it. How do we counter that? How do we get Donald Trump in?
Well, what you say is we don't want you anywhere near there, and we have what you call for an independent electoral volunteers. We don't need the Justice Department. There is no justice. It's not a department. We don't need Homeland Security.
I agree, but how naked is it to have Obama saying there's no such thing as fraud, but now he's got to come take control of it to keep it safe?
Stupid is as stupid does. Obama's irrelevant now. He's just an ignorant individual who came to power thanks to the CIA, but he's irrelevant. Now the American.
So is he just one more guy with his little government badge that just and thinks that's like he's God?
Well, it's not relevant anymore. If we ignore him, all he has to do is write his books. But the truth of the matter is, you hit on the key point, which is to get the volunteers, all of us, out there to the electoral booths to make sure we can see people voting and make sure that we take information as they came out as to who voted.
All right, let me do this. Let's say Donald Trump here's 5 minutes of this show today. Dr. Steve Pieczenik, I'm going to let you go, and I appreciate your time. I hand the baton to Paul Watson with a big fourth hour coming up. I mean, his engines are on. They're red hot. All pistons are, firing. Steve Pieczenik, you're talking to Donald Trump, or you're talking to his crew, you're talking to his advisors right now. What would you say to Donald Trump?
I would say get rid of Christie, get rid of Ben Carson, clear out your whole transition team. Let me see who's on it in terms of foreign policy. Avoid any neocons, Steve Hadley, Zalmay Khalilzad, anyone else. Now, when you go into the debates, you can call the shots. You can determine whether you want to walk off stage, whether you want to make it 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Do not let the reporters determine your outcome on your debates. The debate now is yours. You can do whatever you want with it. If it conflicts with the NFL, then refuse to come on board, because it's not going to change anything. The second thing I would do is to hit Hillary on every issue that she is vulnerable. The $156,000 an hour, the fact that she hasn't accomplished anything, not anything as a senator, not one bill She accomplished nothing.
Libya failed state, turned ISIS loose to kill hundreds of thousands in Syria.
Not only that, you know what she did? Even in the Clinton Foundation, they contributed to the death of 10,000 innocent Haitian people who I love and I've worked with, because they brought in Nepalese UN peacekeepers, and the UN was guilty of this crime. Did you see the FBI? Did you see the International Criminal Court come after them? No. But Chelsea even said that this was a case of gross negligence of her mother and father, yet not one mention was made. 10,000 Haitians were killed because the Clintons went down there and couldn't organize an effective cleanup, and instead the Nepalese used the water system to defecate in there. And the Secretary General of the UN, who's South Korean, is not held accountable. The UN is not held accountable. And so now...
Let's be clear. The UN comes, sets up a water treatment, and then craps in it.
You got it. That was... I didn't want to use that, but you used it. That's correct. So they've killed people. The other thing that was brought out, and Trump has to bring it out, it was Hillary who told Bill Clinton not to intercede in the genocide at Rwanda.
That's right.
Why do you think Bill Clinton is in Africa? He's not in Africa because he cares about the Africans or he gives a damn about them. He cares because he was convicted indirectly by me and others of having killed, because of gross negligence, 1 million Hutu and Tutsis he was warned about it. Sandy Berger was warned months beforehand that the Chinese had machetes. The French themselves had machine guns when they shot down the Tutsis. The French did this, and the French didn't take any responsibility, nor did the Belgians. But this was Hillary Clinton telling Bill, don't get involved. And instead, what did he do? He bombed Serbia. For what reasons? Absolutely none. So he had a most incompetent general, Wes Clark, of the Air Force, send a bunch of bombers in there. But when he had to act, or she had to act, people died. They died again and again and again. We can no longer afford that. And America will stand up in a revolution, a quiet revolution, but it will be a revolution.
I agree, and just keep hammering the fact that he just represents this huge populist movement to bring nationalism and the Renaissance back.
He is the revolution.
I would also point out that the first moderator they've got is admittedly part of her foundation, and of course others they're announcing are also have been caught working for the Clintons. So if I was Trump, I'd just say this moderator right here, so I just want to say right now at the start, is a fraud and works for Hillary. That's correct. It's that type of devastator move that goes right after their arrogance. Up front, though, first off, I just want to say, Matt Lauer, you work for Hillary on an international foundation, so you should recuse yourself. I'm just pointing that out. When you pull stuff today, you give me equal time, and everybody just watch him.
Anderson Cooper. I mean, is that a joke or is that not a joke? I mean, I know he was trained by the CIA, spent a couple of years in the summers in the CIA. He talks about the most absurd things in Sandy Hook and 9/11, and then come and attacks us. This is Anderson Cooper? Come on, give me a break. I mean, he's kind of a cute little boy. He's not even a man who can really ask serious questions. Their narcissism has to be controlled and manipulated by Trump. He gets it. None of this should be acceptable to him, but it's the American people.
How does he do that? Let's say with Cooper as a moderator. I mean, what do you just point out? Oh, it's the little blue blood, what is it, Astor, or is it? It's Astor, or is it, I forget which royal.
No, it's I know.
It's not the Astor, I always flip it. It's the Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt.
The little Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt was nothing more than the Dutch demon. You know, they make up their own.
Sure. So, I mean, how would you just in psychological warfare go after the moderator? What would you say? Like, oh, you work for Hillary's foundation. How impartial? Just want to point that out up front. Or like, what would you say to Cooper? Oh, Mr. Cooper, do you tell your audience you were in the CIA, or that you're a big donor to the Clintons?
That's correct. I mean, it's the kind of information and psyops you can deny, distort, or deflect. It's up to him to decide what he wants to do or have his
But put him on the hot seat, like saying, listen, don't tell me guns are causing the mass murder. It's these psychotropics that are your main sponsors, Pierce.
That's correct. I mean, there isn't one there that isn't open. I mean, what they did was to pick one of diversity, and it was their own people. So, I'm just saying, regardless of who it is, these people are jokes, and they're wide open. Dr. Pieczenik, Twitter at stevepieczenik.com, Pieczenik.
Pieczenik. Steve Pieczenik. Did I say it right? Steve, Pieczenik. Doc, we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.
It's a pleasure, and thank you.
Thank you. I tell you, it's epic time to be alive right now. Amazing things are happening. Paul Joseph Watson, hosting from London, England, is